Looks like it's time for lunch.
Come sit with us.
Jumbo, and welcome to Friendly Black Hotties. The Un is silent, where we pay homage to the films of our childhood that shaped us into the questionable adults of our future.
Thanks for choosing our table. We know you have many other options, but we feel that ours is the best. As sisters, we had a selection of movies we would watch religiously, where we learned all the lines, impersonated the characters, and laughed before the jokes even landed.
One of our absolute favorites to come back to time and time again is the 2002 sleeper comedy, The Hot Chick, starring Rob Schneider, Anna Faris, and featuring Rachel McAdams in her first major role.
Now, this movie is a relic of its time in many ways, with questionable portrayals of stereotypes, raunchy toilet humor, and, well, Rob Schneider as a leading man. But does this film actually have anything deep to say?
Could it actually be a heartwarming coming of age story that explores the role gender can play in our lives and touches on relevant topics that still exist today?
That's the question we seek to answer as we take a deep dive into this film.
So take your mind back to the bizarre times that was the early 2000s as we guide you through this film analysis of The Hot Chick, a celebration of queer identity.
The film The Hot Chick follows mean girl Jessica Spencer, a teenage girl who unknowingly switches bodies with 30-something criminal Clive. Jessica confides in April, her best friend since second grade, about her new secret. With the help of April and the rest of her friends, Lulu, Lingling, Hindenburg, and Eden, Jessica comes up with a plan to figure out where her body is and how to get it back. Adopting the name Spence, a play off her last name Spencer, Jessica is able to go undetected when at school and with her family, while also seeking to maintain the important relationships in her life, including with her boyfriend Billy.
Along the way, Spence adopts various roles as her family's gardener, Taquito, the school janitor, the school mascot, and even April's prom date. This secret identity allows Jessica to learn more about her relationships with each of her parents, as well as their connection with each other. As Spence, Jessica is granted new opportunities to create deeper bonds with those in her life that she values the most. In the end, with the crucial help of her friends, Jessica is able to track down Clive, the man who possesses her body, and manages to not only get her body back, but gain a new outlook on her life for the better. Let's explore what laid down the groundwork for a film like The Hot Chick to be made in the first place. We'll take a look at how the idea for the story came together and the history of queer representation in films as a whole.
The Hot Chick was the first feature film for the director Tom Brady, not that Tom Brady, and this was his second film with co-writing partner Rob Schneider. This film was produced by Adam Sandler's company Happy Madison and released on December 2nd, 2002. Tom and Rob became frequent collaborators in the early aughts, with their first film being The Animal that they both wrote the screenplay for. After witnessing Rob making fun of his girlfriend one day, Tom got the idea for a film where Rob plays a woman, a la classic films like Tootsie and Mrs. Doubtfire, and the two developed the story together. We took the form and inverted it and made it a weird love story, said Schneider. During production, Rob married his girlfriend and said that joy transferred over to his work, especially in the special moments between Jessica and April. While in character as Jessica, female cast members, especially McAdams, would give Rob direction on if he was getting too silly or if his mannerisms were not accurate, going as far as to tell Rob how to hold a beer bottle as a young woman. In talking to the press about how Rob approached the film, he reveals an acute awareness of the power his portrayal of a teen girl actually possessed. I wanted to be respectful to women. I didn't want to be mocking them. That's one thing I didn't want to do, because then I think it would defeat the purpose of what you're trying to do.
Playing the role of teen queen bee Jessica had a tremendous effect on Rob's viewpoints on sexuality, gender, and femininity as a whole, stating in an interview, "Women are not 100% feminine. I didn't want to play this over the top. There is an elegance and a gentleness, an innocence and a sensitivity that women have. I don't want to mock that." Through his interactions with Anna, Rachel, and the other female cast members, Rob noticed strong qualities that they naturally possessed. He said, Women listen better. They have a softness to movement and a different kind of physicality that is funny. Women have a secret strength. If guys had to walk around as women for too long, they would break.
Schneider goes on to elaborate his take on the character, claiming, "No man is 100% masculine and no woman is 100% feminine. We're all just somewhere on the scale there." So what I tried to do was just play it with an innocence and gentleness, and then find some physical keys to lock in on. Director Tom Brady also recognized that everyone really just wants a friend in their partner, to which Rob mentioned that his scenes with Anna were his favorite. He commented on the overtly ridiculous plot of a teen girl switching bodies with an adult man, saying, "In this absurd, insane situation, how do they handle it? With love."
Rob closed out his experience on the set with this statement on womanhood. "I loved being one of the girls. I think my wife would now admit that I am not the same guy I was when I started this movie."
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the themes of this film, it's important to talk about what LGBTQ representation was like in the film industry and how it was practically outlawed from ever being shown. Hollywood and the film industry as a whole, particularly in America, had a don't ask, don't tell policy when it came to same-sex love stories and characters existing on the LGBTQ plus spectrum. For any history buffs out there, you probably already know where this is headed. We're talking about the ever-repressive Production Code, also known as the Hays Code.
1930 saw the introduction of a Puritan set of rules established by the Association of Motion Picture Producers. The code ruled what was morally acceptable to depict on film in regards to the audiences that witnessed the films as a form of entertainment. Coming off the debauchery of the Roaring Twenties, the AMPP sought to restore a moral soul in the public and not promote propaganda that would lead filmgoers to partake in unlawful and sinful behavior. There were 12 applications filmmakers had to follow if they wanted their films to ever see the light of day, overall promoting that the sanctity of the institution of marriage and the home shall be upheld.
Pictures shall not infer that low forms of sexual relationships are the accepted or normal thing. The particular rules regarding sex that sought to eliminate any form of homosexuality or queer inclinations stated that no picture shall be produced which will lower the moral standards of those who see it. The AMPP cared only to show films that aspired to create wholesome entertainment and would never reflect ideas outside of the societal norm. Hence, the sympathy of the audience should never be thrown to the side of crime, wrongdoing, evil, or sin.
In layman's terms, nothing fun was to ever be shot on camera. The AMPP wanted to keep the American public in line and protected from any influence that might lead them astray. This leads us to the sexual norms of the early 20th century that all well-to-do citizens were expected to follow if they didn't want to forever burn in the eternal fires of Hades when they died. American society was predominantly Christian and leaned towards the Old Testament in terms of what was deemed as a perversion of human nature. The institution of marriage was the cornerstone of morality for the American public, and the nuclear family was touted as the crown jewel of the American dream, and even these ideals came with steep expectations.
Marriage could only be between a biological man and a biological woman and was viewed as an institution that upheld the pillars of American society. The family was made up of 4 parts: a father, a mother, a son, and a daughter. The father as the head of the family, financial provider, and decision maker. The mother, the homemaker who kept everyone on schedule, cooked all the meals, and maintained every aspect of the home and family needs. The son, the carrier of the family legacy, and the daughter, the representation of the family's achievements. Any form of sexuality that wasn't heterosexual and performed between cisgendered persons was an abomination. Any kind of fraternization between the same sexes had to be within the spectrum of heteronormative behavior.
Luckily, the Hays Code was abandoned in 1968, but this didn't mean that Hollywood was ready to tell stories that strayed from a strictly heteronormative perspective. There were, however, many brave souls willing to venture into the queer realm and tell their stories. Some honorable mentions are 1962's Lawrence of Arabia, starring Peter O'Toole and Omar Sharif, who play love interest, and 1968's The Children's Hour, starring Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine as lesbian lovers. Also, more recent films like 1999's Boys Don't Cry, starring Hilary Swank and Chloe Sevigny, which tells the true but tragic story of a transgender man, to 2002's Kissing Jessica Stein, starring Jennifer Westfeldt and Heather Jorgensen, about a woman exploring her sexuality with another woman she meets from a newspaper ad.
Naturally, at this point, you may be asking, how exactly does The Hot Chick fit into the narrative of pro-queer filmmaking? The Hot Chick is a film that was ahead of its time in the way it portrays gender norms and societal perceptions of the new millennium. The story of popular teen girl Jessica waking up one morning in the body of a man flips these perceived realities on its head. It reveals how gender lives on a spectrum because no one exists fully under one label, and by accepting yourself as you truly are, you open yourself up to be accepted by others and to find true happiness.
While diving deeper into this film, we found three major themes that prove there is so much more hiding beneath its raunchy surface. Let's first discuss the theme of acceptance and how it extends not only to the self, but to others when it is fully embraced. Living an inauthentic life that is dictated solely by their perception of others can limit your interactions, relationships, and ultimately causes harm to the people who matter most in your life. At the beginning of The Hot Chick, Jessica and April are best friends and the most popular girls at their school. But their friendship is rooted in a deep connection that they shared as children, and even have a secret song and handshake they only perform with each other. After Jessica finds herself in Clive's body, she seeks out her best friend to help her through this curious time. She retells the story of when April first moved to their town and everyone else made fun of her, but Jessica accepted her from the start, and that role is reversed now that she has woken up as a man. When Jessica, in her most desperate moment, pleads to April for help, she is in a sense coming out to April, presenting her male body, knowing her best friend is the only person who will love and accept her no matter what. Understanding that Jessica is in a dire situation, April accepts her once she realizes her best friend is still there.
In the week that Jessica lives with Spence, her connection with her best friend April grows deeper than just having a shared experience as teen girls. It goes to a place of true love when April begins to see Jessica in a new light that leads to romantic feelings. During a night of self-grooming, the girls elaborate on what being in love feels like. Jessica's experienced this with her boyfriend Billy, and April now comes to realize that she's experiencing those same emotions for her best friend who just happens to now be a boy. Jessica displays a true act of acceptance when April declares her love for her at prom. April falls in love with Spence because he's the man of her dreams, as someone who knows her completely and loves her the way that she is. Unlike with the boy who cheated on her, April never has to be a fake version of herself with Spence. The trust is already established. Upon learning this, Spence doesn't belittle April for having feelings for her and instead promises to keep their friendship no matter what. She doesn't judge or shun her for her feelings because she knows that what they share is real, and maybe even in another circumstance, it could have been acted on.
Jessica knows completely that she is in love with Billy and decides that as long as she is Spence, Billy will have to accept her as she is if he really loved her at all. When she suggests that Billy kiss Spence to prove that his girlfriend is still in there, Billy is willing to try, but ultimately can't bring himself to kiss a dude. Meanwhile, Clive, the man possessing Jessica's body, continues their lawless life, but now as an attractive young woman. At the end of the film, all of Clyde's misdeeds in Jessica's body catch up to her when they switch back, such as him stealing Billy's car, assaulting and robbing innocent men, and becoming a stripper. Billy declares his love to the person he thought Jessica had become, and comes around to accepting her and her new criminal ways, despite everything that happened.
At the Spencer home, Booger, Jessica's younger brother, is the only one in the family to suspect that Taquito may not be who they're portraying to be. After noticing a couple of telltale mannerisms of his big sister, he confronts Taquito, who's in Jessica's bedroom trying on her prom dress and crying. This confirms in his mind that his sister has always been there and sweetly tells her that he loves her and accepts her for who she is. Earlier in the film, it's revealed that Booger loves to go into Jessica's room and get into her makeup and clothing. Although it does annoy her, she and her family never shame Booger for this behavior and actually let Booger be his weird little self, showing that the Spencer family embraces their child unconditionally, and in turn would probably accept Jessica if she never switched back to her body.
A cultural construction placating the behaviors of a specific gender can be harmful to a person, especially at the vulnerable age of young adulthood. Believing that being a girl/woman or a boy/man comes with a rigid set of rules and how they should be performed can force a person to act in a way that does not fit with how they feel inside. When Jessica's pretending to be the family gardener to Keto, her father makes an effort to connect with her right away, seeing her as another man around the house. Mr. Spencer shares beers and plays basketball with Taquito to establish a male camaraderie with the only other person at home available to bond with. Because Taquito is actually Jessica, she's able to get Mr. Spencer to become emotionally vulnerable with her, as he reveals that the family unit is completely disconnected. He also reveals how he and his daughter used to share a love for playing basketball as an activity they really bonded over, but Jessica, being so absorbed in her superficial life, has abandoned this pastime and, in a sense, her father as well. Taquito/Jessica is heartbroken to learn this truth, seeing that her father is experiencing a true sense of loss in his life, but is unable to express it to anyone, and hiding his emotions is in turn holding him back in life. Overwhelmed by feelings of guilt, Taquito breaks down crying and tells her father that he is the best dad in the world, to which Mr. Spencer seems truly grateful to hear.
By allowing her father the space to open up and share what he's feeling inside, Jessica understands that trying to be a man can be hard and isolating if you are only ever masculine and refuse to share your emotions with anyone out of fear or rejection. These interactions reestablish a bond Jessica neglected with her dad as she attempts to help her father regain the passion in his marriage, which leads to Taquito becoming a confidant for Mrs. Spencer as well. After catching Taquito looking around Jessica's bedroom for a lost earring, Mrs. Spencer shows a liking to the metrosexual gardener and invites her to a glass of lemonade. Hilarity ensues when Mrs. Spencer lunges at Taquito trying to kiss her, and she fends her off by exclaiming, "This would be unnatural for me in at least 5 different ways," getting to the conclusion that she's gay. Mrs. Spencer feels embarrassed by her actions, but Jessica recognizes that her mother is feeling just as lost as her father and decides to cheer her up with activities they used to share when she was younger, such as painting nails and washing their hair, typically girly activities. Taquito's effeminate male presence sets in motion the conversations and realizations both her parents needed in order to find their way back to each other.
While in pursuit to discover the cause of the body switch, Jessica and her friend group head out to the local club Instant Tang to investigate Jessica's rival Bianca. As Spence, she constantly switches between a masculine and feminine persona depending on who she's interacting with. At the bar, Spence, who is the only one of the group that looks old enough to drink, orders a round of cocktails for everyone, including 2 banana daiquiris, 1 mango, a slow gin fizz, 1 slippery nipple, and for me, a screaming orgasm on the beach with extra sugar on the rim. Yum! To the overtly masculine bartender who looks at her like he can't make heads or tails of what she just ordered. Picking up on this, Spence quickly lowers her voice and changes her order to a brewski, instead of the girly drink she actually wanted in order to project her non-existent masculinity. This presents a running problem for Spence as she takes her new body into the world outside of home and school. At April's house, where Spence is staying, she is free to use the bathroom in the manner that is most comfortable to her, which is sitting down. But this is challenged when Spence has to use the men's room at the club with open troughs. She attempts to pee like a man for the first time and struggles to gain control of her stream. In need of instruction, she turns to the bathroom attendant, who assists her in learning how to aim and even gives her the sage advice: if you shake it more than twice, you're playing with it. After receiving this important lesson, Spence tells the attendant, "I don't know how I could ever thank you," kisses him on the cheek, and goes on about her day, leaving the attendant a little shocked, but okay with the interaction they had, seeing as he didn't hesitate to help Spence and was never weird or awkward towards her.
Later in the night, Spence faces the ultimate test of her masculinity while quickly coming to the defense of Eden when she was hit on by an older college guy in the sleaziest of ways. She immediately tells the guy to back off because Eden's not interested, then impulsively slaps him when the boy suggests that the girls are Spence's skank hoes. Her physical response stems from Jessica's inherent reaction as a woman, but now that she's a man, this kind of action has consequences, and the college boy sees her action as a start to a fight, telling Spence, "You and me right now," before dragging her outside. The 2 men head out to the alley where they square up against each other to Spence's horror and dismay. She automatically goes into a cat-like defense, clawing at the guy in fast, jerky movements that one of the bystanders labels as Thai queer dough. This throws the college guy off enough that he misses his punch, granting Spence the opportunity to bite him in the arm before landing 2 sharp kicks to his shins. This angers the college guy enough to in turn kick Spence in the groin, a rather cheap shot no matter who you're fighting. Eden steps in to thank Spence/Jessica for standing up for her and encourages Spence to keep fighting. She then delivers the final blow when she grabs hold of the college guy's ponytail and swings him around with such force it rips clean off his head, and Spence claims her victory by shouting, "You think you're so cool because you can pee with your penis? Get a new conditioner. Your ends are totally split." It's not Spence's newfound manhood that makes her victorious. She wins by utilizing her feminine prowess to overcome this macho bully without having to stoop to his level. In a sense, Spence standing up to the college guy takes a stand against the predatory nature a lot of young men lean into when interacting with young women that not only comes off as disgusting, but also violates their sense of ownership over themselves. Being a feminine person that presents as male grants Spence a real connection to the women she interacts with because the threat level is gone and everyone can just be their true selves with each other.
Feeling more confident in their manhood, Spence continues to defend the women in her life that she sees being treated poorly by other males, utilizing the influence they now have as a man to step up for April. After finding out that April's boyfriend Jake is cheating on her, Spence decides to help her by pretending to be the new guy she is dating to make Jake jealous and humiliate him. One night, when Jake is essentially calling for a booty call and asking to meet up, Spence picks up the phone and says in a deep masculine voice, "Too late, dude. She's with me right now. She says that my pee-pee's way bigger than yours, and that's if I fold it in half." The only way Jake could be jealous or realize that April is neither his nor waiting around for him was to make him believe that April had already moved on. As a result of Jake's poor behavior, Spence even goes to the prom with April as her date, dressed in the finest suit, where they stage a makeout for Jake to see. Upon seeing them make out, he gets frustrated, quickly turns around, and spills his drink on his date. With this supposed status as a playboy now jilted, Jake is left to the valley of uber masculinity that ultimately doesn't get him in good graces with any of the women, and at the end of the film, he is dejected and alone.
The final theme we'll explore is gender and sexual fluidity. Gender exists on a spectrum that lends itself to complete self-expression regardless of a person's perceived physical body. True connection cannot be made without the opportunity to explore both the masculine and feminine roles dictated by socially gendered expectations. From the beginning of the film, Jessica's little brother, Booger, embodies the role of a typical younger sibling by going into Jessica's room without her permission and going through her things. Jessica would often walk into her room to find Booger dressed up in her clothes, with heels on, clips in his hair, and wearing her makeup. In fact, Jessica even puts makeup on him to cover a bruise on his face he got at school. Booger is fluid in his gender expression and is allowed to be by his family. He's able to explore that part of himself through Jessica's clothes and makeup and enjoys being able to do so. This is evident when Jessica, as Taquito, is working in the yard and looks up into her room to see Booger happily dancing around in her prom dress, again in makeup, rocking out singing karaoke to Authority song by Jimmy Eat World. By the end of the film, you see Booger in Jessica's red pumps running out the door behind his parents to go find Jessica when his dad says, "Come on, buddy, you gotta learn to run in those if you're gonna wear them." Booger feels comfortable to express himself however he wants in front of his family. Booger bounces around in his gender expression without feeling the need to question what it means or categorize his behavior. He's just himself, however that looks in each moment.
Gender fluidity can also be seen when Clive and Jessica both go through a second puberty, where they each have to learn to live with the body of the opposite sex. Clive experiences getting his period and having to buy menstrual products, which he never had to encounter as a man. Jessica, on the other hand, has to learn to live with the penis, how to pee with it, and dealing with the morning erection. Even though Jessica is still a female and Clive is still male, they are both living on a spectrum from what they normally wear to how they normally act. Jessica chooses to still wear her tight-fitting clothes as she did before, whereas Clive chooses to embrace his feminine side and explores dressing in short, tight-fitting outfits. Even when Jessica plays more into a male persona, it's still her being her real authentic self, just through a more masculine lens and not putting on an act or pretending to be someone entirely different. The same can be said for Clive as he bounces between the masculine and feminine while in Jessica's body. He uses his new female exterior to lure unsuspecting men in, then harnesses masculine energy to rob them, including Jessica's boyfriend Billy. Clive uses the advantages of his new body to benefit him in ways being a man never could. This includes him working as a dancer at Polecat, where he knew he could make a lot more money than running the scams he did in his own body, illustrating that he had no problem embracing his femininity to his advantage.
At one point, April and Jessica have a sleepover where they take part in traditional sleepover activities between girlfriends. April helps Jessica wax, paint her toenails, and talk about what's going on in their love lives. No matter how Jessica presents, she always expresses herself the same as who she is, Jessica. Maybe sometimes just under a different name. This aspect of Jessica carries throughout the film and is even why her brother Booger is able to recognize her as Taquito without them ever interacting. Jessica's mannerisms make her a dead giveaway, no matter how she looks.
During the prom, when staging a makeout session in front of April's ex to make him jealous, after locking lips, Jessica proclaims, "I am so lesbian right now," which plays into the notion that, like gender, sexuality isn't set in stone, and experiencing something out of your ordinary can open you to romantic feelings you haven't felt before. This especially applies to April. After her and Jessica succeed in making Jake jealous, April continues to kiss Jessica because she has developed real feelings for her. This is a perfect example of where gender and sexual fluidity overlap. Jessica, being fluid in her gender, grants an opportunity to April to be fluid in her sexuality. It's because Jessica was in this male body and playing with the masculine and feminine that April was able to see a new side to her. For April, she wasn't just seeing her best friend as usual. She saw more than that. And seeing Jessica as a man was the first time April had experienced being treated well by a male-presenting person she was romantically interested in. Spence was everything April wanted in a partner. He was fun, supportive, loved to do the same things as her, and was someone she could trust, but ultimately, Spence was all of those things because he was Jessica. All the feelings April felt are because of who Jessica is to her and how Jessica treats her. April really only saw those things because of this new body where she was able to separate Jessica visually from Jessica internally and see her in a new light.
The main takeaway of this film is that the ultimate path to true happiness comes from being who you are despite societal expectations and loving a person no matter their sex or gender. By utilizing a classic comedy trope of mistaken identity with a twist, this raunchy teen comedy of the early 2000s shines a light on the spectrum of gender and sexuality in a positive and joyous manner.
The main character, Jessica, reaches a satisfying ending of complete self-acceptance that in turn makes her a better person to the people in her life and herself. The hot chick humanizes a queer person's story by implicitly making the audience root for the main character, despite the prejudice, perception, and biases we inherently carry pertaining to gender and sexuality.
Unfortunately, that bell means the end of lunch period. We're the Friendly Black Hotties, and if you enjoy chatting, please feel free to hang with us again.
We hope the rest of your day isn't a drag, you aced that exam, and your crush got that note you tried to pass them in second period. Hugs and kisses.
Bye!
Oh, and shout out to Matt Lawrence.